Okay, welcome to week 6. There's a to-do list at the top of the homepage as usual. So let's take a look at the things on the due Friday list. So you have 2 major tasks this week and they're both due Friday. The first is to participate in a discussion board about the homework you completed for week 5. You, in week 4, read Midgley's paper, and in week 5, you read 2 sample student papers that were asked to summarize and evaluate the argument. And so one of your tasks is just to discuss your evaluations with one another. So let's take a look at that. So this is a whole class discussion board, and hopefully it doesn't end up being unmanageable in its size, but your task is to make 4 posts, 2 original and 2 engaging with your peers posts, and this discussion board is broken up by category, as in I've made starter threads for each of the categories that were in your homework. It was broken down by introduction and summary of the argument and integrating Midgley, evaluating the argument, and general quality of writing. So I've made a thread for each of those. One thing that's worth noting about discussion boards is you can close up everything with this little up tab, so you can just see the big picture, and then you can open things one by hovering over the little caret here. Okay, so your task is to share at least 2 original things in some of these categories, and then engage with at least 2 of your peers' posts. And as usual, disagreement can be helpful. It's interesting that my sense is you guys are pretty harsh critics of both of these students, and you, at least from what I'm seeing in the homeworks you've already submitted, do disagree about the quality of both A and B's papers. So don't hesitate to disagree. The reason we're doing this is to talk about the objectives we're aiming at and to look at concrete examples and decide whether they are good instances of the thing we're aiming at. Continuing on the focusing on our objectives and looking at examples and talking with each other about what counts as meeting these objectives, the second task for this week, also due Friday, is a feedback workshop on paper number 1, and we're using a new tool to do this, and I hope this isn't confusing. Everything's integrated in Canvas, so hopefully this is straightforward, but I've never used it either, and I hope it goes smoothly. So when you click on this, you'll see instructions as usual. I don't know if it looks exactly the same because I can't really view this as a student. When I click on this link, it won't work, but when you do, it should. We're using Perusall to read 4 sample student papers. Well, actually, let me go back to that page I was just on. So I've selected 4 of your paper 1 submissions for a class-wide paper workshop, and I selected them more or less at random. If you submitted early, you had a better chance of having your paper chosen. And the only thing I was trying to choose for was different positions or main claims. And I have removed the authors' names, but if in the perusal activity you want to claim your paper, feel free. And your task is to read and evaluate at least 2 of them. I recommend that you read all of them, but evaluate at least 2 of them using the Perusall functions. So you can leave annotations on the actual paper throughout, so the actual writing of the paper put annotations on it. There's also a rubric, and there are general feedback questions. Let me show you what that'll look like, but not in Perusall. Okay, so at the top of, you'll see this in Perusall. I'm just showing you the document I put into Perusall for all of you to look at and annotate together. So it begins with a summary of our various objectives and also a kind of comment code that you might be able to refer to. You could just use S1 or S7 or whatever. If this is helpful, I'm not sure. I just thought I would put that there. So the first 2 pages are just a reminder of the various skills we're working on and a kind of comment code. Then I've picked 4 papers, and for each paper, after the paper, there is a rubric. And so you'll be able to like highlight this and put a comment on it if you think it fits in this category or this category. So And then there's also general questions at the end. So you could highlight this and add a comment, or somebody's already done it, you can respond to that comment. I just make it work. There's not a single thing that your engagement with this is supposed to look like. Just be sure that you are putting comments on the actual text, you are commenting on the rubric, there's 3 sections of the rubric, and answering at least one of these general feedback questions. We do that for 2 papers. Okay, if you have questions as you're doing this, if there's some kind of tech issue, please let me know right away, because I've not used this tool before, but I've heard really good things about it, and I'm looking forward to see what you guys do with it. Okay, now these 2 tasks are both about evaluating sample papers and getting clear on what our objectives are. And I've asked you to complete them by Friday so that I can weigh in on your conversations and share how I look at these objectives and would weigh up the samples we're looking at. And I'll make a feedback video on your homework 5 discussion board and your homework 6 perusal discussion. And I'll post that probably Saturday is what I'm thinking. And then by Tuesday, after having done all of this evaluation of papers and hopefully having viewed my video feedback on your evaluation, complete your own paper 1 self-eval. And as you're completing those, I will also weigh in and update paper 1 scores and feedback. So your self-evaluations are not going to determine your grade. Your goal is to just be as accurate as possible in evaluating yourself, because the ability to evaluate yourself takes the same set of skills that you are evaluating yourself on. And so it's complicated, but I promise reflecting and thinking about the criteria you're aiming at and evaluating yourself and comparing it with others' evaluation of you is part of the process for being sort of self-aware and able to control your own writing and your own progress. Okay, that is it for this, what we're doing this week. The last thing I want to comment on is that I'm making minor changes to our course schedule. The syllabus will reflect this very shortly. I'm going to cut one of the topics that we were going to look at in the next week. We were originally going to do both moral relativism and divine command theory. These are 2 different views on the nature of morality, and we're going to cut divine command theory and just focus on relativism so we can do that in a bit more depth. I was reviewing the readings that I wanted to do, and I think that they're enough. And I'm going to post week 7's readings, which we're going to use perusal as well to read the readings together and annotate them and talk about them. I'm going to post that in the very near future, in the next couple of days. So this week is a little lighter than other weeks, and if you are ready to start working on reading the next section and getting to work on week 7 stuff, I'm going to have that available early. Okay, thanks for taking the time to listen to this, and I look forward to seeing your evaluations of all of the student papers.